attorneys resigned rather than 7 U.S. attorneys resigned rather than follow a demand to drop corruption charges against New York Mayor Eric Adams. My next guest met with the Democratic mayor just days after that order came down and got some notable concessions on Trump's push to round up migrants in New York. Joining me now is President Trump's border czar, Tom Homan. Thank you so much for being here, sir. I just want to ask directly, you met on Thursday with the New York mayor, and he announced then that he would give ICE agents access to the prison on Rikers Island. You called that a game changer. A few days before Adams made that announcement, the Justice Department instructed prosecutors to drop federal corruption charges against him. It sounds like the DOJ dropped the case against Adams, and in exchange, he let you into Rikers. Is that what happened?
No, I think that's ridiculous. Me and Mayor Adams met a couple months ago. I think it was probably 9 weeks ago we met. We had the same discussion, and we talked about getting a presence in Rikers Island. We talked about how we can collaborate on public safety threats and finding the missing children that can't be found after they release their sponsors. And we had that a couple months ago, long before this other discussion. So I don't think it had anything to do with it. Matter of fact, the meeting was very well. It was the same meeting we had a few weeks ago. The reason we had the follow-up meeting because there's no action being done. So we follow up on how we can get some of this stuff in place, and that's what the meeting Thursday was about.
Right. I mean, you absolutely have been honest about the fact that you met with Adams before in December, I think it was. You came away from that meeting really unsatisfied. What changed between then and now other than the Department of Justice dropping the case against Adams?
No, I didn't come out of that meeting unsatisfied. I was after several weeks, I was taken back that we hadn't gotten any action on that yet about getting Rikers Island. So we rescheduled a meeting to talk. Okay, well, we talked about what things we need to put in place, how we can make this happen. So let's get going. Let's take some steps forward, and that's what the meeting Thursday about. And we came out Thursday with a plan, and how we can get Rikers Island in the Criminal Intelligence Division. So we get an understanding of who's in there, who's foreign born in the Rikers Island. That's a significant public safety threat. We also talked about how we can collaborate on the missing children, many that are being in New York City, and that's what we talked about. I really don't think had anything to do with whatever's going on in the Justice Department. We never talked about that. It's kind of out of my lane. I've been talking to the mayor for months about getting in Rikers Island, and that's what we talked about.
Yeah, and I totally understand you do not work in the Department of Justice, but you do work in the broader Trump administration. And, just as somebody who is in law enforcement, you call yourself a cop, just looking at the series of events, sir, the fact that you didn't get what you wanted, you came away not sure why he wasn't doing what you wanted him to do, particularly with opening Rikers. The Department of Justice gets rid of the charges against him, and then poof, he agrees.
Look, the first meeting, if you look at my interview after the first meeting, I said to the whole world, I've called that mayor out for a couple of years because I didn't think he was doing the right thing as far as public safety threats. And that first meeting back in December, I said to everybody that interviewed me, for the first time I saw the cop in him. I saw the cop come out of him. He talked about how he wants public safety threats removed from New York City. He wants illegal alien crime to decrease in New York City. And there's a way we should collaborate on that. We agreed that he doesn't want to be an immigration officer. I don't want him to be an immigration officer. We agreed on that. Well, I just want him to help me with the public safety threats, leave immigration enforcement to us. So it was a great meeting. Just the actions following up that meeting were slow to happen. That's why I requested a second meeting to find out what more do we need to do to get some of this stuff in place. So I just think people are making a lot about nothing. I mean, again, I went up there as the ICE director. Now the border czar, and we collaborated on how to move illegal alien crime, decrease it down in New York City, and find the worst of the worst. And that's what we talked about. It was cop to cop. Not border czar to mayor, cop to cop. And we talked about the public safety threats and how they should be removed from our communities. And that's what was in the conversation.
I want to read you what the Deputy Attorney General, Emile Beauvais, said as he ordered the case to be dismissed without prejudice. He said, "The matter shall be reviewed following the November 2025 mayoral election," meaning DOJ could bring the charges back. In an interview with Fox, you and the mayor sat side by side. I want to play for our viewers what you said there.
Now I got him on the couch in front of millions of people. He can't back waving us now, right? So I think you're going to see things move in the right direction. If he doesn't come through, I'll be back in New York City, and we won't be sitting on the couch. I'll be in his office, up his butt, saying, where the hell is the agreement we came to?
Who wouldn't enjoy a little more 5 times in their life? Like 5 times more interest than the National Savings.
On the couch, I'll be in his office, up his butt, saying, where the hell is the agreement we came to?
I mean, that's a pretty direct message, sir, that Adam needs to play ball when it comes to immigration.
Well, finish playing the tape. There's more to that tape. This is 2 cops talking. We're talking cop. I mean, once you're a cop, you never lose that language. We had a great time in the meeting before, busting at each other. That was a joke. And if you play the tape further, he laughs, immediate response, well, I'm going to hold you accountable too. I'll hold ICE accountable, get what they did done. I'm telling him I need you to come through on your promise. He responds to me that I need to come through on mine. So this is a conversation between 2 cops having a good time.
What is your promise?
And people are making a lot out of nothing.
What is your promise, sir?
My promise is I'm not going to ask those officers to be immigration officers. I'm not going to push them to enforce immigration law. I told them I want to arrest the bad guy. I want to arrest the public safety threats. I want to get Rikers Island so we can get the public safety threat before they're released to the street. I want his help, especially the NYPD intelligence unit, who's the finest intelligence apparatus in the world, to help me find missing children. They have problem. Many are in forced labor. Many are going to be in forced sex trafficking. Not all of them, but many of them. And that's a promise I made to him. Do you do law enforcement stuff? Help me get the public safety threats and the children. I'm never going to ask you to arrest an illegal alien, and that is my promise. Not to make them immigration officers, but make them cops working with cops.
So if he doesn't do the things that you want him to do, would you be okay with DOJ reopening its investigation into him? Should they do that?
That's out of my lane. I'm a border czar. I care about the border. So let DOJ do what they do. I care about removing public safety threats from the country. That's what President Trump's promised the American people.
Adam says that you aren't looking into New York schools or churches as you hunt for undocumented immigrants. Did you make that commitment to him?
What me and Mr. Adams talk about is telling the truth that the left has tried to scare the American people. We ended the sensitive location policy for one reason, because we're the only federal law enforcement agency that had those type of requirements. What I made clear to Mayor Adams is that we're not raiding schools, we're not raiding churches, we're not raiding college campuses. But if we have a significant public safety threat, or national security, let's say, for instance, an MS-13 member who's a senior in the high school, who's wanted for drug distribution or strong arm robberies, we will go to that school and arrest that MS-13 member with the help of the local authorities. It's not about raiding schools, it's about arresting one bad guy where we know he is and not let him escape back into the community. That's what discussion we had.
I just want to take this conversation more broad and talk about how it's going so far with the president's promise, multiple promises on immigration and deportation. You've said roughly 14,000 migrants have been arrested in the first month of this administration, and that's well below the 1,500 daily arrests that the president says he wants to see. You're getting support from across the federal government, from the FBI, from DEA, from U.S. Marshals, even the military. What's the struggle? Why are you struggling to get those arrests where President Trump wants them?
Well, we got to remember the interior arrests conducted by ICE in the interior of the United States is 2.5 times higher than they were a year ago during the Biden administration. So ICE is doing a great job. I'm not happy with the numbers because we got a lot of criminals to find. So what we're talking about right now, we're increasing the number of teams, increase the targeting, the division of ICE that creates a target list of, finding who these people are, what their criminal history is, and where we're most likely to find him. We got to increase the targeting production. So we're doing that now. We're increasing the targeting. We're increasing the teams out there in the field. And finally, I'll be honest with you, sanctuary cities are causing us a lot of work. And rather than arresting a bad guy in Rikers Island, we have to go to the neighborhood and find them, find people that don't want to be found. It is hard because rather than one man arresting one bad guy in a jail, we got to send a whole team to the field to find somebody that doesn't want to be found. And so it's hard work, but we're not giving up. We're coming. Again, the numbers are a lot higher than the Biden administration, but we got to do more. And I've been real clear on that. And that's why we're making the operational changes now that I've requested.
You went after Democratic Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez for hosting a webinar for immigrants called Know Your Rights with ICE. I want to play what you said.
Is that impeding our law enforcement efforts? If so, what are we going to do about it? Is she crossing the line? So I'm working with the Department of Justice and finding out where is that line that they cross. So maybe AOC is going to be in trouble now.
Are you suggesting that she should be prosecuted?
I'm suggesting, and I'd ask the Department of Justice, where's that line on impediment, right? It's a broad statute. So I know impeding with someone stopping in front of me and putting their hands on my chest so you're not coming in here and arrest that guy, that's clearly impeding. But at what where's the line on impeding? So I'm asking the Department of Justice, who are the prosecutors, and decide who they prosecute and what the standards of that prosecution is. I simply says, at what point is that impeding? Because you can call it know your rights all you want. We all know what the bottom line is. The bottom line is how they invade law enforcement. Don't open your door. Don't answer questions. Here's what we're talking about. We're talking about people here in the country legally with a criminal conviction who had due process at great taxpayer expense and were ordered deported by a federal judge, but became a fugitive. And we're talking about don't open your door to ICE. You don't have to answer questions. I think it's more about how to invade law enforcement, not to get arrested, even though there's a federal warrant for your arrest. How to evade that rather than know your rights. Now, we can argue about that all day long.
Adobe